Good evening. I'm Sean Flynn, and on behalf of everyone at Expedia Cruises, I want to welcome all of you to our very special presentation tonight, hosted with African Travel. A few quick notes that I'd like to share before we get underway. We will be recording tonight's presentation, and so if you're not able to stay for the entire time or wish to share the information with family and friends, please reach out to your travel consultant to receive a copy once it's available. Also, in the interest of time, we request that any questions that you may have about the content of tonight's presentation be directed to your Expedia travel consultant, who is in the very best position to assist you. Now, as we've transitioned to our new branding as Expedia Cruises Air, Land, and Sea, we would like to remind everyone, Kevin, if you can just slide me ahead. So yes, as we've transitioned to our new branding as Expedia Cruises Air, Land, and Sea, we would like to remind everyone that we still remain committed to our promise to you, providing you with advice that you can trust, accessing the best choice in pricing, of course, as always, our Expedia extras, as well as being there for you before, during, and after your travel. We are also more than just cruises, and with that in mind, we're showcasing a very special travel provider tonight, African Travel. Next slide, please. We've got a fantastic presentation for you tonight. As I understand, most of our audience has never been to Africa, but everyone is anxious to learn more about this fascinating continent. We've partnered tonight with a supplier that has 45 years of experience bringing visitors to all corners of Africa, and we're very privileged tonight to have Kevin Cowie, Director of Sales, to bring us on a virtual journey for an overview of what there is to do and see in Africa. And with that, over to you, Kevin.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sean. And I truly appreciate it. What an absolute pleasure it is to be and join with everybody this evening and bring you a taste of Africa. I know that we don't have a lot of time together. And oh, my goodness, do I have a lot of information that I want to tell you about. People, I think you will hopefully realize by the time we get to the end of this, I am incredibly passionate about Africa. And I always say I could actually have you here until cornflakes time tomorrow talking about Africa. But I know we all have lives to lead and places to go, and that's just not possible. So this will be a somewhat express trip through Africa, but I hope you will enjoy it. And it will give you some ideas on what to expect when you travel to Africa, and how to go about working with your Expedia Cruises advisor in order to set up what is truly going to be the trip of a lifetime for you. So as Sean said, my name is Kevin. I'm actually the Director of Sales for African Travel. I am born and raised in Africa, born and raised in Zambia, which is in Central Africa, Central Southern. Although right now I live in the United States, but I do go backwards and forwards all the time. So at African Travel, our moniker is We Know Africa, and that's purely and simply because it is true. We have been in business for 45 years, so we've certainly been around the block, and all we do is breathe, eat, and sleep 24/7, 365 Africa. We do nothing but Africa. And we're North America's largest tour operator that focuses exclusively on Africa. Many of you may not have heard of us because we actually do not sell directly to you as the traveler. We are a great believer in what your Expedia advisor brings to the table. You know, whether it's Africa, whether it's a cruise around the world, whether it's South America, whether it's a simple cruise down to the Caribbean, whatever it might be, the more often you use your Expedia advisor to book the trip for you, the less work the next trip becomes for you because they're going to get to know you so well. And when it comes time to plan some of those really more intricate trips, those really beautiful, amazing multi-week cruises, or a trip to somewhere like Africa or Australia or whatever it might be, it is just so important that whoever you have doing it for you knows all about you. And that means you don't have to start at the beginning with talking to somebody and hoping that they get you. You have somebody who already gets you, and they're going to ensure. And it also means that 3/4 of the work can be done before you even need to really start making some decisions, because they know exactly what it is that you like, how you like to travel, and equally as important, what it is that you don't care for. These things are so important as well. That's every bit as important as what you do like, because we need to know what to stay away from and what to avoid. And at African Travel, I'm very pleased to be able to tell you that we actually customize 95% of what we do for you as the traveler. You know, we're great believers in this is definitely a big investment of your time. certainly an investment of your money, and therefore it should be done exactly the way you want it to be done. So at African Travel, rather than just having some safari in a box that we say, here it is, this is what it's all about, take it or leave it, we are absolutely going to work with your Expedia advisor to make sure that we create the perfect marriage between us, which is then going to provide you with the absolute best possible trip. This is a life-changing experience. It's one of the things that I love about Africa. Everybody that I talk to who has traveled to Africa uses those words, and you will hear me use it several times this evening in the presentation, because purely and simply, it is true. So I don't not only preach it, but I practice it. And of course, as I said, I'm originally from Africa. And I just wanted to show, and of course, I understand you don't need to do it, but I hope that you will trust and believe that I myself was just in Kenya. So Africa is open. Africa is awaiting you. It is ready. And as Expedia Cruises has their theme going this week, the time is now. Africa is really a hot ticket item, and space is definitely going to become at a premium over the next year or two in Africa. There is so much pent-up demand for this product. But this was just an image of me in Africa. As I said, just a few weeks ago, I was in Kenya. I had the most amazing trip. The protocols were exemplary. It was absolutely fantastic. I felt so safe in Africa. We actually transited through New York in order to fly to Kenya. And I just felt way safer the whole time that I was in Africa than any time that I had been in New York, with protocols, with what everybody was doing, hand sanitizer, masks being used everywhere. It really, truly was remarkable. So as I said, at African Travel, our single focus is Africa. And these are the 16 countries that we currently offer in our portfolio. What I would consider to perhaps be traditional safari Africa, starting with East Africa, going on down through Central South, and of course, all the way to the southern part of the continent. But as you'll see, we also do Egypt. We won't spend much time on Egypt this evening. But I will tell you that Egypt is going gangbusters right now, and it's a very popular destination indeed. You'll see that we also do go across the desert into Jordan, and we do the United Arab Emirates, particularly Dubai. And that's so many of you are now using Emirates to fly to Africa. So a couple of days stopover in Dubai, it really makes a lot of sense. We then go out to the Indian Ocean and do the islands of the Seychelles and Mauritius, and the wonderful island of Madagascar that I will touch on in a little bit. But we are actually part of the Travel Corporation, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the Travel Corporation actually is often what we call the largest tour company or travel company in the world that nobody has ever heard of. This is the largest privately held travel company in the world. It has 42 brands, but the corporation is truly wonderful because they allow these brands to run on their own, to do their own thing and have their own identities. And so some of the brands that you're probably familiar with that are within our family are our sister brands, people like Uniworld, Trafalgar, Kontiki perhaps, Insight Vacations, and so on. So we keep very, very good company with our sister brands. But it is very interesting because the Travel Corporation was actually founded in South Africa 101 years ago this year. So it was founded in a small fishing village just outside of Cape Town, the mother city of South Africa. And so Africa is absolutely in our roots, it's in our DNA, and it is in our heritage. And in African Travel, every single trip that we curate for you that is going to bring these life-changing experiences to your journey, every single trip is going to have components that give back, whether it be to the continent of Africa, the conservation of wildlife, or indeed to the communities. It's so important that the communities of Africa live side by side and hand in hand with the wildlife to ensure that the future of Africa is here for generations to come. And we do this through our not-for-profit organization, the Tread Right Foundation. So we do, of course, absolutely have to manage your expectation about how much you can do in Africa. And I'm sorry I don't have Canada on this map. And it was just, something that we pick and choose a little bit. But it was like, it just shows you, we all know how big China is, how big India is, how big the United States is. And this just gives you an idea of how big this continent of Africa is. We hear from the advisors all the time, oh, my client wants to go to Africa, but they kind of want to do the whole thing and they want to do it within a week. And we all know that that just simply is not feasible when you see how it's laid out on a map like this. So we do need to manage the expectations. The other thing that we hear about all the time, of course, is that this is a once in a lifetime journey. And so your advisor and myself or our specialist will look at each other and go, okay, whatever, that's great. Because everybody that returns from Africa says they cannot wait to go back and see more. I can give you 5 trips to Africa right off the top of my head that are all completely different and giving you very unique experiences. So Africa is definitely worth more than one visit, and you will see for yourselves once you get there. But let's start this evening with South Africa. And why do we start with South Africa? This is what I consider to be Africa 101. Everybody that you're going to interact with in South Africa is going to speak English. You're going to have hot and cold running water everywhere, flushing toilets everywhere, even out in the lodges and camps in the middle of nowhere when you're on the safari portion. And the biggest surprise to everybody is the quality of the food. You know, I think so many people think when they're going to Africa that it's going to be kind of the blazing saddles experience with the can of beans over an open fire, the wooden spoon stuck in it and sitting on some rock for dinner. That absolutely nothing could be further from the truth. And people come and say, wow, we were just blown away by the quality of the food that we had, even in the middle of nowhere. They were producing this most incredible gourmet style of cuisine. It was fantastic. And it's very interesting because Cape Town, which, as I mentioned earlier, the mother city of the country, is actually now one of the top cities in the world for foodies. The restaurant scene in Cape Town is incredible and absolutely vibrant. And yes, we know that everybody is looking for animals, but there is much more to do in South Africa. And I've already mentioned Cape Town a couple of times. This is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's surrounded on 3 sides by water, the iconic Table Mountain in the background. This is a very outdoor city, a very open city. If any of you have ever traveled to Sydney, Australia, a very similar kind of quality of life. Table Mountain is the #1 request that everybody wants to do while they're in Cape Town. And to get up Table Mountain, you would take this cable car that goes. And as it ascends and descends, it very slowly rotates. That means that everybody that's inside in the cable car gets a really great opportunities for photographs both over the ocean, down towards the city, and indeed back towards the mountain, which is equally as interesting. And you don't get everybody rushing from one side of the cable car to the other, trying to take their pictures and kind of tilting or something crazy like that. So everybody really gets great photographic opportunities. Second most requested touring in the Cape Town area is out to Cape Point. This is a very important part of our planet geographically. It is the southernmost point of the continent of Africa. It also happens to be where the Indian and Atlantic Oceans come together. It's very rugged, it's very beautiful, it's very blustery, and it's just a really great place to visit. And then about 20 miles along the coast from Cape Point, we have Boulders Beach. And Boulders Beach is home to a year-round colony of penguins. So you don't have to go all the way to Antarctica to see penguins. We've got them right here for you in South Africa. And as I always love to say, who doesn't like to see a couple of penguins kissing on the beach? Now, if you're into wine, the South African wines, they have come such a long way in the last 30, 35, 40 years or so. And they now win prizes with the very, very best of all the international wines and in all the international competitions. But as you can see from this, the winelands are just more than wide. The scenery out here is stunningly beautiful. This is a Kodak moment at every turn. So even if you're not into wine, I always say, take a trip out to the winelands. It's just amazing to spend even half a day, because guess what? The winelands are only about 25 miles from the center of Cape Town itself. It's easy to get out here for a half a day. There are also some fabulous restaurants out here, so you could come out, do some touring around, get these amazing, beautiful pictures, and then go and have a wonderful lunch. There are also some fantastic hotels out in this area, and a lot of people will actually choose to come out here and stay a night or two. And then they'll do 2 or 3 tastings and have these wonderful dinners and just an amazing experience out in the winelands. And the people of South Africa are incredibly friendly. This is actually true for the people all over Africa. They have these wonderful smiles. They sing beautifully. They're so welcoming. It just isn't true. I always feel bad. I kind of have to apologize because I feel like I'm showing you the 3-headed lady here, but of course you get the picture. But they really are wonderful, wonderful. Moving on to the safari portion. So when you go on safari in South Africa, And I'm going to use a word here, but I use it in the most positive terms possible. You are going to be shocked by how up close and personal you get with the animals. This image is in no way adopted. It truly is a remarkable and incredible experience. It's a life-changing experience. You know, Africa, every trip to Africa is all about the wow moments. This is nature. I cannot guarantee what your wow moments are going to be. I can guarantee you will have wow moments when you're in Africa. And of course, everybody's usually looking to to check off the big five, which are starting on the bottom here: the lion, Cape buffalo, the elephant. Up on the top, we've got the leopard. This is the most elusive of the big five. And then on the top left, we have the rhino. And rhinos are critically endangered. I personally have a very soft spot for rhinos, and I'm very involved in the conservation of them. It is a race against time because of the poaching of the rhinos. I wish I had 30 or 40 minutes just to talk to you about the poaching, what's going on there, and how ridiculous that whole situation is. But in the interest of time, just suffice to say, as I said, it is a race against time to try and save them from extinction. We are continuing to lose the race. But every trip that you make to Africa is going to help us try and preserve and conserve these incredible animals for generations to come. And talking of rhinos, one of my 5 favorite places in all of Africa for a safari experience is Shamwari Game Reserve. Now, there are lots of places you can go to see game in South Africa. And when you're planning your trip with your Expedia advisor, we're absolutely going to be happy to work with them and figure out which is the best place for you. But this just happens to be my personal favorite because they have an incredible number of animals here. But they also, the wildlife, the game viewing is spectacular. But they also have other things to do here too. And part of this is their wildlife rehabilitation center. And here what they're doing is they're taking baby rhinos, orphaned rhinos. Their mothers have been killed by poachers and they've been abandoned. And they surely would die if they were left out in the wild. So they bring them here and they rehabilitate them, and they're then able to return them back to the wild. It's a wonderful program, and it really is helping to ensure the success in the future of this species. Now, you may be asking yourself, why is there a sheep in this picture? Well, that's because they try to keep the human interaction with these animals down to as minimal as possible, because that makes it a lot easier to return them to the wild. And sheep happen to make excellent companions for baby rhinos, also, by the way, for baby elephants. So that's why you see the sheep in this image. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm showing this image. Well, this is another project that they have at Shamwari, and it's called the Born Free Big Cat Rescue Sanctuary. And they go around the world and they find big cats, primarily lions, that are being kept in conditions as you're seeing here. These two were actually found in a circus in Bulgaria in this cage. And they bring them back to Shamwari, and they are able to allow them to live out the rest of their lives in the habitat and the conditions that they were meant to be in. These 2 lions had never touched grass or soil until they came to Shamwari. Now, unfortunately, these animals are usually too old to rehabilitate and get back to the wild, but at least their second half of their life is being lived in comfort and in the way that that nature made them to live. So it's another great thing I love about Shamwari. Number 1 add-on to any trip to South Africa is always Victoria Falls. So this is the largest curtain of water in the world. It's also one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. And, I'm asked all the time, Kevin, I've been to Niagara. Do I need to go to Victoria Falls? The answer to that is a simply and resounding yes. I'm sorry, but Niagara is kind of a drop in the bucket compared to Victoria Falls. And here you can be as crazy as you want to be. You can go bungee jumping, you can go zip lining, you can take the inflatables out. An amazing way to get a very different perspective of the falls is to go by helicopter. If you look at these folks that are sitting in the middle of the screen here, and you look behind them, you'll see that the color gray kind of changes slightly. That's because they're sitting on the edge of the falls. It's a little bit crazy, a little bit cuckoo, but it is an amazing experience. You can only do this for a very few weeks of the year when the falls are in their lowest flood. But the vast majority of people like to take, there is a wonderful manicured walkway that goes the full length of the falls with fantastic turnouts and able to give you the opportunity to get some really great photographs of the falls itself. So now let's move up to East Africa and go to Kenya. So how does Kenya different, or East Africa in general, differ from South Africa? So in East Africa, we're now going into raw, true majestic Africa with the wide open plains. This is the Africa of the Out of Africa movie, if you've seen that. And if you haven't, please do. It's incredible. It's my favorite movie of all time. And it is just, or if you've seen any of those documentaries on BBC or PBS or National Geographic or something like that, this is the Africa that you more often than not are seeing there. It is truly, truly remarkable. Capital city of Kenya is Nairobi, and it is the gateway where most people arrive. And a very interesting feature about Nairobi is Nairobi National Park, because this is the only national park of wildlife that abuts in the world that abuts right up to the city center, as you can see here. In fact, when you're driving from the airport to your hotel in the city center, you will drive along the perimeter of the park, and you can actually see the wildlife right as soon as you arrive. It's really quite remarkable and is incredible. But the wildlife in the national park are thriving. There are a lot of rhinos here. They've done very, very well with their rhino program here. The other thing, as I mentioned, if you're at African Travel, we're always looking for ways to give back to the communities. And in Nairobi is one of my favorite projects. This is the Kazuri Beading Foundation. So what they did here, this was a group of ladies who were really down and out on their luck. Life is looking very bleak for them. But they got together and they realized that they were very talented with their hands, and they can make these beads. They also make pottery, and they make pieces from scratch. And it's really beautiful work that they do. So we can set up for your clients to go and visit the project here. If they want to buy something, they're certainly welcome to do so. And one of the great things about buying is the fact, of course, that they're going to be supporting this community project. But also, when they get it back to their hotel room, or they look at finally back to home in Canada and they look at it, they're going to be able to look at the bottom of it and see it does not have made in China extra scratched into the bottom or something like that. These are all one-off authentic pieces. Another great project that is right in the center of Nairobi is the Sheldrick Foundation. So Sheldrick Foundation does for baby elephants what the Shamwari is doing for baby rhinos, i.e. they find them abandoned, often in very harsh conditions. They bring them to the Sheldrick Foundation, they rehabilitate them, and they return them to the wild with great success. One of the nice things about this is that you as a traveler are able to actually go and you can adopt an elephant before your trip. And then when you're on your trip, you can actually go and see your elephant at the foundation. Now, you're not allowed to touch them. You're not allowed to play with them because, again, they keep that human interaction to a minimum. But you are absolutely able to see them and see the good that's being done and know that that elephant is getting a second chance at life that it normally would not have. One of the great places to travel in Kenya, because in Kenya, it's really good to come and visit 2 or 3 different wildlife areas. It's really the best way to see Kenya. And one of the great places to do this is in Amboseli National Park. So Amboseli National Park is very well known for its elephants. We call these tuskers, and that's because they have tusks that really are basically touching the ground. But this is a very, very beautiful park too. And from anywhere in Amboseli, you can get really great views of Mount Kilimanjaro. So Mount Kilimanjaro is Africa's crown jewel. It is the largest or the highest mountain in Africa. It actually is the highest freestanding mountain on the planet. Of course, yes, there are higher mountains, but they're all parts of a range. Mount Kilimanjaro is the highest freestanding mountain. And whether giraffe is photobombing the image of the mountain or the mountain's photobombing the image of the giraffe, I'm not quite sure. But whichever way around it goes, it's certainly a wow moment in Africa. From there, we love to take you up to the northern part of Kenya and go to the Samburu region and Samburu National Park. Now we're starting to get into some of those wide open spaces, a little bit of topography and so on. Really interesting and very, very beautiful. And one of the interesting things up here is that they have 5 species of animals that are found nowhere else on the planet, not even anywhere else in Africa. The rangers love to take. And by the way, rangers are incredible, incredible people. The work and the time that they have had to take to learn their craft and to know most of them are born into it. It's truly remarkable, their knowledge, and they're going to make your trip just that life-changing experience that we refer to. But you will see these 5 species of animals. And one of them actually is an ostrich. And I'm going to show you here a regular ostrich you'll see in other parts of Africa, because I saved the surprise for the Samburu ostriches. But the bottom line is that the Samburu ostrich, its legs and its neck are actually blue, which is really quite remarkable. The zebras, and by the way, in Africa, we do call them zebras and not zebras. So the zebra that you see on the left-hand side here, this is a greavy zebra, also found nowhere else in Africa. Difference between this and a normal zebra is you look at the zebra, you can see the stripes are very, very densely compacted, whereas zebras all over the rest of Africa, the stripes are very, very broad. We also love to take you to meet the Samburu people. This is a very ancient tribe, and they stick to their traditions. And it's really fascinating that certain times of the year, particularly in the dry season, when water is short, they go and they will dig 50 or 60 feet down into the earth to find water for their cattle to drink. And as they're doing this, they form a human chain. And they sing while they're doing it. And this is a very sacred rite and ritual for them. And they call this the singing wells of the Samburu. It is actually so sacred that photography is not allowed here. So this is one of the very, very few images you will ever see of the sacred wells in action. And then we move over to the southwestern part of Kenya and into the Masai Mara. So now, when I talked about those magnificent, wide open plains, the raw Africa dotted with acacia trees here and there, this is the Masai Mara. This is truly the Africa of out of Africa. Absolutely remarkable. And to be able to come here and have a bush breakfast, come out, it's just wonderful. Again, the cuisine is fantastic, and you're going to be blown away by how you're out in the middle of nowhere, but they're serving a piping hot breakfast. It's truly, truly remarkable. The Mara is also home to the Great Migration, just for about 3 months of the year. The other 9 months it's in Tanzania, which we're going to get to in a second. But the migration is absolutely fantastic. This is when you get 1 million wildebeest and zebras that will move. And the biggest myth about the migration, of course, is a once a year thing. That's not true. It is a 12-month cycle, and they move between 9 months in the Serengeti and 3 months in Kenya in the Mara, and they move all the time. Talking of Tanzania, let's move on now to Tanzania. They do share a border with Kenya, and from a topography point of view, very, very similar. Again, those wide open plains, and also, again, hope to the Great Migration. You know, it is just truly remarkable to come up against 1 million animals. It's like coming up against a wall, and when you're in the middle of them, it's just incredible, absolutely amazing. But one of the places we love to take you to in Tanzania is Tarangire National Park. This park flies under the radar. It's not very, very well known, and yet it has a plethora of wildlife. And that's why I love it, because it's never very busy at all. Also home to the baobab trees that you see here. A lot of people consider or call these the upside down tree, because they do spend about 9 months of the year without foliage. So it does look that they have this very stubbly branch system. It looks like it's their root system that's sticking out from the ground. From there, we love to take you onto Lake Manyara, and as the name would imply, this is on a lake. They do have the wonderful array of four-legged animals here, but an incredible, one of the world's biggest population of birds. And, you know, I love it because people come away from Lake Manyara and they go, wow, I never really knew that I had so much of an interest in birds, or could be so interested in birds, but they made it so fascinating. And I learned more about birds than I ever thought was possible. And it was fantastic. Loved it, loved it. From then on to Ngorongoro Crater. So this is the world's largest caldera. It is absolutely so huge. Many people believe this should be the 8th wonder of the world. It's very deceiving. What appear to be hills on the side here are actually 2,000 feet tall, and it stretches for many, many miles off to the right-hand side. All of the animals that live in the crater never leave the crater, and no humans are allowed to live in the crater. So that means that all of the lodges and camps and so on are up on the rim of the crater. And I love it. You come out here early in the morning, go out onto the balcony of your lodge, and you're standing with your steaming hot cup of coffee, and you're looking down into the crater, and you can hear the lion roaring and the elephants trumpeting, and the clouds are cascading down the side of the crater like a waterfall. Oh, I have goosebumps right now just saying it. I see it every single time I think about it. It's truly, truly remarkable. Another of those wow moments in Africa. And then, of course, we move on to the Serengeti. So Serengeti National Park. Serengeti is to Tanzania what the Masai Mara is to Kenya. This is probably the most famous of all national parks in Africa, and it's really where the safari experience started some 70, 75 years ago right now. It is just incredible. It is just filled with animals. And one of the most amazing ways to see Africa is from a hot air balloon. You're wafting over the African plains in total silence, except, of course, when they pump the gas a little bit. But you're looking down on this changing landscape and you see the wildlife. And, of course, at the end of it, we're going to have the champagne breakfast for you. And trust me, when you do champagne breakfast in Africa, they take it to the next level. It's really incredible. And I've talked about the migration in Kenya and Tanzania quite a bit. So I just wanted to show you, this is the map of where it is. So no matter what time that you want to travel to one of these two countries, if you're interested in seeing the migration, you absolutely are going to have the opportunity to do so. It is going to be, we can take you to the place where it, roughly where it will be, and a lodge that is in that vicinity, and you'll be able to see it. But, you know, both of the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, it's not only about the migration. At any time of the year in any part of this, because as I said, migration is all about wildebeest and zebras. But there, of course, are all the other animals, the exotic animals of Africa that live in their territory year round. They don't migrate. They stay where they are. And if you look at these images, you can see in the background, there are animals dotting the landscape everywhere. And that's what the Masai Mara and what the Serengeti are all about. This is all about wildlife, wildlife, wildlife. It's truly remarkable. Take a very quick look now at Africa's smallest country that packs the biggest punch. This is Rwanda. So, you know, Rwanda, for up until a few years ago, was really primarily known only for gorilla trekking. And trust me, gorilla trekking is probably the ultimate in life-changing experiences. It's absolutely, I mean, look at the look on her face. It just says it all. It speaks volumes. It's incredible. This is definitely a life-changing experience, and more than a double wow moment. It's incredible. But, you know, Rwanda is known for so much more as well. They have chimpanzees there. It's always very interesting to me that when we think of Africa, we don't always immediately think of chimpanzees, but when you think of chimpanzees, of course, immediately we think of Africa. And you can go trekking looking for chimpanzees as well. And this is one of the very few places anywhere that you'll be able to see them in their natural habitat. The people of Rwanda are also very, very just wonderful. Some of the friendliest people in all of Africa. And as I mentioned, people all over Africa. We hear it from everybody. Oh, you know, I wanted to go to Africa. I was so excited about seeing the animals. I knew kind of hoped the scenery was going to be beautiful. But my goodness, I fell in love with the people. And I would love to go back and meet more of the people and learn more about their cultures. And Rwanda truly is a very forward-thinking country indeed. Let's move on further south now, or back down south again, to Botswana. So Botswana is, I know I use superlatives all the time. I warned you at the beginning, I'm very passionate about Africa, but Africa warrants it. Every trip to Africa, you can't help but just talk about superlatives. And Botswana is home to the Okavango Delta. This is the largest inland delta in the world. And the animals here have adapted to living in, on, and around the water. So much of your safari will be in and on the water as well. And I would be very amiss if we didn't talk about Africa's newest safari lodge. This is Kidjara. It's in Botswana. It's owned by the Red Carnation Properties, the Red Carnation hotel chain. But the attention to detail here is simply amazing, absolutely beyond the extraordinary. And I'm absolutely going to tell you that when things get back to normal, this will be the best lodge in all of Africa. And they have a fantastic feature here called the Baobab Suite. So I talked to you earlier when we were talking about Tanzania. I showed you pictures of some baobab trees. So this is absolutely a man-made baobab, but they've done it. They've created a suite that looks like a baobab tree. So you have on the lower levels your bathroom, your living room, and indoor bedroom, and so on. But look out on the top. This is an outdoor bedroom, the opportunity to sleep out under the African sky. You know, we all live under the same sky, but so few of us ever see it without light pollution or air pollution. In Africa, it is going to be clear, a million points of light shining down upon you. It's so beautiful to be actually able to see the Milky Way. It's truly, truly remarkable. And you'll be able to see this every night in Africa. And to sleep out under it, wow, truly incredible. Yes, wow. Botswana is all about the wow, as is all of Africa. And if you come home with images like this, you are going to be the talk of the cocktail parties and dinner parties in your towns and villages and cities for days, weeks, months, and years to come for sure. I can't guarantee that you will have an experience like this. I certainly hope you do. But again, I can guarantee there will be wow moments when you're traveling, not only in Botswana, but all over Africa. Want to take a quick look now at Namibia. Very interesting because Namibia and Botswana share a border. So I told you, you've got Botswana that's all about the water with the Okavango Delta. And then we go into Namibia. This is all about the desert. But the surprise here is that you're seeing all of the animals you would expect to see on a traditional safari. You're finding them in the desert. So elephants and rhinos and lions and giraffes, they're living in the desert. It's absolutely remarkable. It's truly an incredible, incredible country. And yet, only about 5% of people who travel to Africa ever actually go to Namibia. So if you want to do something that you want to have bragging rights to something that almost nobody else is doing, then you want to do it because trust me, you will have an amazing, amazing experience. And one of the great ways to do Namibia is actually by rail. We work with Rovos Rail, which is one of the world's greatest rail companies. Travel by rail in luxury. This is it on Rovos, fantastic. And they have a wonderful, wonderful trip that does go through Namibia by rail. And your Expedia advisor can certainly help you with that and give you all the details. But Namibia, as I said, it's the desert and it's all about the senses. The color of the sand changes constantly depending on the position of the sun. To be able to see the sand blood red like this. And by the way, down on the bottom there, you can see the oryx. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but you don't see oryx very often. Very, very rarely in Africa you find oryx and see them. But Namibia, you can. And oryx, of course, if you look at them closely, they are the source of the myth of the unicorn. Moving on now to Zambia and Zimbabwe. So I told you at the beginning that I'm originally from Zambia. So I'm very biased about this. But here I want to draw your attention very, very quickly to top left and top right. This is Mfui Lodge in Zambia. This lodge was built around a grove of mango trees, and the elephants have been coming to feast on these mangoes for generations. So after the lodge was built, the elephants were like, well, the heck with your lodge, we're still coming back for our mangoes. And it's really cool because elephants are animals of tradition. And for generations, their paths took them through what is now the lobby and the lounge area of the lodge. So to go get their mangoes, they come through the lobby of the lodge. It's really remarkable. Now, I cannot guarantee this will happen when you are there. But if it does, I think that would definitely be another wow moment in Africa. And lastly, for countries, I just wanted to look at Madagascar. So this is the island that is 500 miles off the southeast coast of continental Africa. But it is a world away. 85% of the flora and fauna found in Madagascar is found nowhere else on this planet. 107 species and subspecies of lemur. It's amazing. And the color reigns supreme. They're really the only predator on the island is a fossa. It's about the size of a house cat. Because, normally if there are predators around and you're colorful, you're also toast, unless you're poisonous. But here, color really can reign supreme. The people here also wonderful, maybe a little cuckoo sometimes, but they're really wonderful. And I just want you to look up here at the top right. This is my friend. He's a blue-eyed black lemur. And his claim to fame is that he is the only primate on Earth, aside from human beings, that has blue eyes. So when that comes up at your trivia at the pub or wherever it might be next time, you are going to know the answer to that. So I know you'll say, well, Kevin, this is all very well and beautiful animals and amazing experiences and wow moments, but where are we going to stay? Is it going to be in some kind of mud hut with a thatched roof and a hole around the back for the bathroom and whatever? Absolutely not. This is a standard bathroom at a lodge in South Africa. Not every lodge has a private plunge pool like this one does on the deck, but many do. And if that's in your wheelhouse and you want it, then we are absolutely going to work with your advisor at Expedia to make sure that that happens for you. But the people are blown away by the level of accommodations. And even tents, when you're thinking of a tent, you're thinking of a Boy Scout tent with a cot and an igloo cooler down the side or something. Oh my gosh, this is a tent. It's remarkable. Look, wooden floors. It has glass doors to get into it. If you didn't touch the walls, you really wouldn't know you were in a tent. And look down at the end of the deck there. This one also has its own private plunge pool. This is a standard tent at Sindili in Chamwari in South Africa. And oh, how much more out of Africa do you get than something like this? Wow. That's the great thing about Africa. There is such a plethora of choices when it comes to accommodations. And that's why your advisor at Expedia is so important, because they know exactly what you're looking for. You want something a bit more contemporary. You want something more traditional. You want this out of Africa experience. You want the star bed, whatever it might be. because the starbeds are what we call that sleeping under the sky experience. And I talked to you about it with the Baobab Suite. There are not a lot of starbeds in Africa, but they are available. We're seeing more of them opening up. But again, it's just an amazing, amazing experience. The biggest question I get asked, is it safe? Yes, I promise you. At African Travel, we're not here to put you in any danger at all. We would never do that to you. So this is a very, very safe experience, but very incredible. And I will tell you, it's actually really romantic as well. And how about romance? My gosh, you come back from your day on safari and they have these a really good old look, throwback in time. And you can sit in here with your glass of champagne and looking out over the plains of Africa. Oh, how wonderful. Absolutely incredible. And I talked about the food. And this is a kind of setting you can often expect to have dinner in once you come back to the lodge. And you can see, they put tablecloths and they've got crystalware and silverware. But the great thing about it is you can be as casual. It's a very casual affair when it comes to dressing for dinner. So all of the tiaras and ball gowns stay at home. But it's great to have be in this ambiance, share stories about other people with other people who have been out on game drive as well. What did they see? What did you see today? It's just a great, great way to end the day on safari. We talked about the big five. There are so many more. We've got the hippos, the giraffes, the painted wolves down at the bottom. I love that word, or that terminology, painted wolves. It does look like they've been running through wet paint. And over down here on the bottom right is a honey badger. This is the most elusive creature in all of Africa. It's also the meanest critter in all of Africa. But even the lions are afraid of the sky. But it's very, very unlikely, very rare to see one. But keep your fingers crossed, your wow moment just might include one. And of course, at the end of every day on safari, one of the big things we do, this is a true African tradition. We do it all over Africa, but we'll stop about 15 or 20 minutes before the sun sets, and we find a great place to do it. Might be a riverbed like this. Of course, we check for crocodiles first. Could be an open plain. It could be under a grove of trees. It's always going to be a beautiful setting. And the Jeep will stop, and out of it is going to come tables and chairs and tablecloths and plates and glasses and knives and forks and appetizers and a full bar, everything that you could possibly imagine and more. It's like Mary Poppins pulling it all out of the bag. It's really quite remarkable. And we pour ourselves a drink and we bid farewell to the sun every day. It's a really, really great tradition. And in Botswana, you can take this to the next level too, because one of the great ways to get around Botswana is by dugout canoe, or makoro as we call it. And you can imagine you've been out in your makoro for your afternoon game viewing. You've seen elephants and the side of the delta and so on. Come around the corner, and here is the bar set up for you in the water. And you paddle up to it, have a couple of cocktails, and bid farewell to the sun with sundowners, Delta style. So as a result of you attending this evening, we are very proud and very pleased to be able to tell you that we're offering any new bookings that are deposited by August 31st that you can do. We'll offer you a $200 safari credit. This can be used for touring in Cape Town. It can be used towards a hot air balloon experience in East Africa, or you can simply take it off the bottom of the total cost of your trip. But we would love for you to come and experience our Africa. This certainly has been the express route through so much of Africa. But at African Travel, we are absolutely here to take care of the complicated. It's what we are all about. Anybody can do Africa 101. We want you to go to your Expedia advisor, throw them a curveball. Let's see what we can do to make your trip to Africa that much more special. Because your advisors at Expedia are ready, they're waiting, they can't wait to help you to go on what is absolutely going to be, I promise you, a life-changing trip filled with wow moments. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Sean. And because do remember, the time is now, time to get booking and thinking about Africa. Sean, over to you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kevin. I did promise everyone a fascinating presentation, and I'm sure that many in our audience are feeling the same way that I am right now, that's filled with a desire to see and experience firsthand everything that you've shared with us tonight, knowing, of course, that we've only seen a very little bit of all that there is to learn and know about Africa. But of course, we don't want to give it all away. We want you to experience it firsthand and actually go see it, and not just listen to the information that we have to share with you tonight. So before we go, I just want to remind everyone that this presentation has been recorded, and I invite you to reach out to your Expedia vacation consultant to start planning your African adventure, and they'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have and take up Kevin's challenge of seeing what kind of fantastic itinerary we can create for you. So on behalf of everyone at Expedia Cruises, I just want to thank you all for joining us for this wonderful presentation. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you again so much.